Top 10 battles that changed the course of history. History does not change gradually. It changes on specific days, in specific places, when two armies meet and one of them wins. The battles on this list are not simply famous engagements or impressive military achievements. They are the days when the outcome was genuinely uncertain and the two possible results would have produced two fundamentally different worlds. One army won. The world we live in followed from that win. What if the other army had won? That is the question every entry answers. Because the counterfactual is the measure. The further history diverges from the alternative, the more decisive the battle. This is the top 10. Ranked not by scale of the battle, but by the scale of what changed because of it. Number 10. The Battle of Marathon, 490 BC. Greece versus Persia. The day Western civilization survived its first test. In 490 BC, the Persian Empire was the largest in the world. Athens was an experiment, a city of perhaps 30,000 citizens attempting something no civilization had seriously tried. Self-government. Democracy was 10 years old. The Persian army landed at Marathon with orders to destroy Athens, which had supported a rebellion against Persian rule. The Athenian general Miltiades ordered a full charge across the plain, a tactic so unexpected it broke the Persian line. The Persians fled to their ships. Athens survived. The alternative. Persia conquers Athens and eliminates democracy before it takes root. The philosophical tradition that Athens produces, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, never develops. The political DNA of Western civilization does not form. The runner who carried news of the victory to Athens ran the original marathon distance and died on arrival. It was worth it. Number 9. The Battle of Gaugamela, 331 BC. Alexander versus Darius III. The end of the Persian Empire. Alexander the Great had already conquered Egypt when he met the Persian Emperor Darius III at Gaugamela, with an army outnumbered roughly 3-1. Darius had chosen the ground specifically, a flat plain where his chariots and elephants could deploy freely. Alexander's response was a cavalry charge through a gap in the Persian line that he had deliberately created, targeting Darius directly. Darius fled. The Persian Empire, which had dominated the known world for 2 centuries, effectively ended that afternoon. Alexander went on to spread Greek language, culture, and philosophy from Egypt to northwestern India, creating the Hellenistic world that became the cultural bridge between ancient Greece and Rome. Without Gaugamela, Persia survives. The Hellenistic synthesis does not happen. Rome absorbs a different cultural inheritance, and the intellectual foundation of European civilization looks fundamentally different. Number 8. The Battle of Tours, 732 AD. Charles Martel versus the Umayyad Caliphate, the high water mark of Islamic expansion into Europe. By 732 AD, the Umayyad Caliphate had expanded with remarkable speed across 3 continents. Islamic forces had crossed into Spain in 711 and were moving north into the Frankish kingdom. Charles Martel, the Frankish military commander whose name means the hammer, met them near Tours with a force of infantry against the Umayyad cavalry. The Franks held their position for 7 days. When the Umayyad commander, Abdul Rahman al-Ghafiqi, was killed in the fighting, the Islamic forces withdrew. The advance into Western Europe halted. Charles Martel's grandson was Charlemagne. The alternative. Islamic expansion continues north into the Frankish heartland, potentially reaching the British Isles. The religious and cultural map of Europe, and through Europe, the Americas, would be fundamentally different. Edward Gibbon famously speculated that without Tours, Islamic scholars might have been teaching in Oxford. Number 7. The Battle of Hastings, 1066 8 William the Conqueror versus Harold II, the birth of modern England. On October 14, 1066, 2 men claimed the English throne. Harold Godwinson, the Anglo-Saxon king, had just marched his exhausted army south after defeating a Norwegian invasion in the north. William, Duke of Normandy, had landed with a fresh army on the southern coast. The battle lasted from morning to dusk. Harold died, tradition says by an arrow to the eye, though historians debate the details. William became William the Conqueror. The Norman invasion transformed England permanently. The French influenced English language we speak today, the feudal legal system, the architecture, the aristocracy, all flow from this single afternoon. Without Hastings, England remains Anglo-Saxon, develops differently from the continent, possibly never develops the particular fusion of Norman administrative sophistication and Anglo-Saxon common law that produces English parliamentary tradition, and by extension, American constitutional democracy. Number 6. The Battle of the Marne, 1914. Germany versus France and Britain. The week that turned World War I into a long war, Germany's war plan in 1914 depended on speed. The Schlieffen Plan required France to be defeated within 6 weeks before Russia could fully mobilize in the east. By early September, German forces were within 30 miles of Paris. The French government had fled to Bordeaux. The plan was working. Then French General Joffre counterattacked along the Marne River. The German advance stopped. The armies dug trenches. The 6-week war became 4 years of industrial slaughter that killed 17 million people. The counterfactual cuts both ways. If Germany wins at the Marne, the war ends quickly, probably with a German-dominated Europe. No prolonged war means different consequences. No Russian Revolution in 1917. No collapse of the Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires. Likely no conditions producing Adolf Hitler in World War II. The Marne did not just change the course of World War I, it shaped the entire 20th century. Number 5. The Battle of Britain 1940 RAF versus Luftwaffe, the air campaign that prevented the Nazi conquest of Britain after France fell in June 1940, Britain stood alone. Hitler's plan to invade Operation Sea Lion required air superiority over the English Channel. The Luftwaffe began systematic attacks on RAF airfields in August 1940. For 2 months, the outcome was genuinely uncertain. The RAF held barely. German losses were higher than expected, the airfields kept functioning, and Hitler shifted the bombing to London in September, giving Fighter Command the breathing room it needed. The invasion was postponed and eventually abandoned. The alternative is the most examined counterfactual in modern history: Germany invades Britain. Eliminates the only significant Western base of operations against Hitler's Europe, removes the platform from which the D-Day invasion would later launch, and potentially alters the entire Western Front of World War II. Churchill's line captures the historical weight: never was so much owed by so many to so few. Number 4. The Battle of Midway, June 1942, USA versus Japan. 4 minutes that turned the Pacific War. 6 months after Pearl Harbor, Japan's carrier fleet was dominant in the Pacific. At Midway Atoll, Admiral Yamamoto planned to draw out and destroy the American fleet. American codebreakers had cracked enough of the Japanese naval code to know exactly when and where the attack was coming. On June 4, 1942, American dive bombers caught the Japanese carriers at the precise moment their flight decks were packed with aircraft being refueled and rearmed after a failed strike on Midway. In approximately 4 minutes, 3 Japanese carriers were fatally damaged. A 4th followed that afternoon. Japan lost 4 irreplaceable fleet carriers and over 200 trained carrier aviators. Japan never recovered naval aviation supremacy. The Pacific War shifted permanently from Japanese offense to American advance. Without Midway, Japan retains naval dominance in the Pacific, potentially for years altering the timeline and cost of the entire Pacific War. Number 3. The Battle of Stalingrad 1942-1943, Germany versus Soviet Union. The turning point of World War II from August 1942 to February 1943, the German 6th Army fought for control of Stalingrad, a city Hitler had named as a personal objective. The Soviets refused to yield the west bank of the Volga. In November, Operation Uranus encircled all 330,000 German soldiers. Hitler refused permission to break out. By surrender, 91,000 remained alive. Approximately 5,000 ever returned to Germany. Stalingrad was the largest and bloodiest single battle in the history of warfare, with combined casualties approaching 2 million. It was also the moment both sides understood that Germany could not win the war. Without a Soviet victory at Stalingrad, the Wehrmacht retains momentum on the Eastern Front, potentially reaching the Caucasus oil fields that would have sustained the German war machine indefinitely. The entire calculus of World War II changes. The Soviet Union, already suffering catastrophic losses, faces a different strategic reality. Number 2. The Battle of Dien, Bien Phu, 1954, Viet Minh vs. France, the battle that ended European colonialism in Asia in late 1953. French commanders established a fortified garrison in the remote valley of Dien Bien Phu, intending to draw the Viet Minh into a set-piece battle where French firepower could destroy them. The plan assumed the Viet Minh could not transport heavy artillery through the surrounding jungle. General Giap transported 200 artillery pieces through the jungle, disassembled by hand. The French garrison was systematically destroyed over 57 days. On May 7, 1954, the last French forces surrendered. France left Vietnam that year. The United States, reading the wrong lessons from the French defeat, stepped in. Dien Bien Phu did not just end French colonialism in Southeast Asia. It demonstrated to anti-colonial movements worldwide that a guerrilla force could defeat a Western industrial military in sustained combat, a lesson that reshaped global politics across the following decades. Number 1. The Battle of Thermopylae. And why it is not number 1, a note on what this list is actually measuring. Thermopylae is famous. Agincourt is famous. Waterloo is famous. They are not number 1 on this list because fame and historical consequence are different measurements, and this list measures consequence. Number 1 is not the most celebrated battle. It is the battle whose outcome most radically altered the trajectory of human civilization.